The 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons Essentials Kit is a box set released by Wizards of the Coast in 2019. It's a follow-up to their starter set from 2014, and both box sets are meant to introduce players and DMs to the 5e rule set. I personally haven't played much 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons, mostly because of the overwhelming breadth of each book and the pace at which they have been published since 5th edition debuted in 2014. But I've always had much respect for the creative minds behind the 5e stuff. To dip my toe into the D&D 5th edition, I decided to take a look at this Essentials Kit. But rather than just do a straight review, I wanted to pose a question, a sort of thought exercise. What if the 5e Essentials Kit were the only RPG you ever played? As in, what if you had no access to any other RPG rulebook or supplement, and the rules and adventures in this box were all that you had to play with? Now, I didn't want to spend actual years playing this game, so it is a bit of a simulation, and ultimately it's a review of the product as well as a craft project, in case you were wondering. So here goes. I started out by taking stock of all the stuff in the box. At the retail price of about $20, I couldn't help but think that WotC is taking a bit of a hit on profit margins in order to get people into the game, which is to say, you get a lot of fun stuff for the price. Okay, the card quality is a bit weak, having to be punched out from perforated cardstock, but you do get a little card box. Then there's the rule booklet. The booklet is 65 pages and covers all the major rules of Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. To make a long story short, I'll just list the cons and then the pros of this booklet. Cons: 1. The cover art is pretty unsightly and out of place. It looks like the art you might find on the cover of a Wizards of the Coast corporate conference schedule of events, as well as the background art for the lanyard badge at that conference. As a matter of fact, here we go. 2. The 5e rules have a number of real oddities, like naming spell levels, but having them not correspond at all to character levels. This particular issue makes the concept of spell slots much harder to understand at first too. And then there are tired concepts like alignment and experience points. 3. The characters are nearly indestructible with all the hit point recovery options. Hit dice recovery on short rests, full recovery on long 8-hour rests, and elves only having to rest for 4 hours to get full HP recovery. Pros: 1. The classic fantasy races and classes are covered with a bit of extra. You're given 4 races here: dwarf, elf, halfling, and human, as well as 5 classes: bard, cleric, fighter, rogue, and wizard. And there are 74 spells in total. This is a very manageable and approachable set of choices, and I really appreciated the whole background element to each character, allowing you to choose from acolyte, criminal, entertainer, sage, or soldier. With this kit, you could put together about 100 different combinations of these elements, which feels like a comprehensible number of possibilities. 2. Universality. Say what you will about Hasbro and their aggressive modern corporate approach to extracting profit in the tabletop RPG market, but there is something to be said about a rule system that is so prolific. These mechanics, spells, races, and classes have been around for a little while now, and they are by no means perfect, but they're known, and that's nice to have sometimes for obvious reasons. 3. Brevity. I can't speak for the 5e Player's Handbook, but this rulebook is a merciful 65 pages. When you actually sit down to read it, it's abundantly clear that it could still be half that length after cutting out the unnecessary wording, but still 65 pages is a good short length for any core rulebook. 4. Digital version of everything. This kit comes with an online code that unlocks the adventure booklet on their D&D Beyond online platform. The online version is fully hyperlinked and comes with high-res versions of all the maps in numbered and player-friendly versions. Just one caveat here, and that's that the player-friendly versions reveal all the secret doors. So hopefully you have some Photoshop skills, or you're just not that into secret doors. Then there's the actual booklet containing the adventures for this kit. It's titled Dragon of ICESPIRE Peak. But the dragon is just one final or semi-final aspect of it. It's really a collection of 9 quests, with an additional 4 locations to explore in a small area of the Forgotten Realms setting. It's designed to get characters from level 1 to level 6 and then fight a dragon. To keep level progression on the rails, 3 quests reward 1 level each on completion, and then 6 side quests reward 1 level for every 2 that are completed. This milestone leveling is actually an evolution from awarding experience points for individual feats. The only problem I had with this book was that the area descriptions were too long, on average by a factor of 3, just too wordy. That being said, this is a hell of a little package with actual encounter maps for all of the named areas and a full 33 monsters in the back, 21 of which they include the illustration for. This is a lot of usable content to chew on. I ran my first game after fully processing all of the rules and quests. Game prep was a bit long due to the wordy room descriptions, and explaining the rules to new players was laborious. My players used a couple of sidekicks, which was certainly not the intent of sidekicks, which are for one-player sessions. The sidekicks messed up the turn economy and slowed things down. I will try to kill off these sidekicks in the next session. It has become apparent that the character classes are the mechanical bedrock of this game. It's where there's the most complication when leveling up, and where there's the most variation in gameplay between characters. A character's race also carries important mechanics, but not quite as many, and really has a lot of bearing on the roleplay, and the backgrounds of each character are almost purely for roleplay. I can see getting bored with these 5 classes if I played this box set for years on end. I wrapped up the first run-through of the side quests and main quest of killing the young white dragon. The book says that the dragon's name is Cryovane, but I found that too cheesy and on the nose, so I renamed her Corthrax Vendetum and came up with a whole backstory. I need more substance in my main villains, both for my sake and that of my players. A witless lizard just isn't going to cut it. In the past weeks, I've made a big stink about word count, but after running this module through its entirety again, the text blocks aren't that big of a deal. I've highlighted what I needed to know, memorized some of it, replaced some of it, and just wing it with the rest. My white dragon has developed into a tortured soul who can be reckoned with as well as fought. My players usually opt to fight, though. After 3 more runs, a truth has emerged about this adventure booklet. It is full of NPCs who've invaded the natural habitat of a native species. White dragons live in icy mountains and they need to eat. Some of what the book says about Corthrax is lies. There are lies at the beginning and the end of the book. The players are given these lies up front, but then they have a chance to understand the true nature of things. On 4 separate occasions now, they have chosen to believe the lies and to slay the dragon. Out of the 36 or so encounters that my players have had with my dragon, on only 3 occasions did they spare her life or pledge their service to her. But at the very least, I found the true purpose of the Essentials Kit. It's all about the dragon, the one falsely named Cryovane. Adventures come and go. Sidekicks have died 100 times. Each location has been raided and looted and reset countless times. The physical materials of my box show signs of wear. It's definitely occurred to me that this kit wasn't supposed to be used like this. It was more of a disposable product, and I was supposed to have moved on to other WotC merchandise by now. So in an effort to reinforce the cardboard box itself and to put a proper face on it, I decided to line the inner box with black faux leather, cutting it with a utility knife and affixing it with tacky glue. This is to act as a rolling tray. For the outer, I used more faux leather, and after affixing and sewing the edges and corners, I etched some transfer foil onto the material through a printed out design. This design is meant to praise and commemorate the great dragon of this adventure. I also cut the corners of the cards with a little corner rounder thing so that they felt more like traditional cards and easy on the hands. I've played this game for the last time. It has run its course. The orcs don't belong in the ICESPIRE range, and neither do the people of Phandalin, or any of them. They're newcomers, an invasive species. At best, they are meat for the great worm. It was a good run, a learning experience. Glad I did it, but it's over.